All right, so welcome to the deep dive. We sift through all the noise to find the nuggets of knowledge you actually need.
And that's what we're going to be doing today
Yeah.
with Coupang, the so-called Amazon of South Korea.
So to really get into Coupang, we've got three really good sources.
Yeah.
We have a CNBC interview with Coupang's founder. We've got some really in-depth analysis from Quartr, and then a short piece that talks about how Coupang kind of copied other businesses to become this e-commerce giant that they are today.
Right. And what makes Coupang so fascinating is that they're not just dominant in South Korea.
Okay.
They're actually profitable.
Wow.
Which is really unusual in this world of super fast-growing e-commerce companies.
Right. Like, what's in their secret sauce?
Yeah, what are the ingredients that led to their success?
So to understand Coupang, we need to start with the founder, Bom Kim.
Okay.
And this guy is fascinating. He drops out of Harvard Business School.
Wow.
Because he is just itching to make a real-world impact.
Well, that impatience to make a change is
Yeah.
something you see in a lot of really successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And they see the opportunity.
Yeah.
And they just have to go for it, even if that means leaving something as prestigious as Harvard behind.
So think about this. Coupang, at the beginning, was actually just a Groupon style, like a daily deals website.
Okay.
And, I mean, who would have thought that that would transform into this massive e-commerce titan?
Yeah. I mean, it really shows Kim's ability to adapt.
Okay.
You know, he recognized the potential in that social commerce.
Right.
But he also was able to see the limitations of that model.
Okay.
And knew that the real opportunity
Yeah.
was in building a much more comprehensive e-commerce platform.
Okay, so Coupang hits $1 billion in sales.
Wow.
They're all set for this massive IPO. And then Kim, at the very last minute, pulls the plug. And later, he said that he had this nagging feeling that they weren't really creating the jaw-dropping experience he envisioned.
So he was willing to walk away from what was basically a guaranteed huge payday.
Right.
That says a lot about how committed he was to creating something truly customer-centric.
So it's almost like he had this gut feeling that just settling for good enough wasn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
So they went back to square one, completely overhauled their entire business model, and focused on becoming this end-to-end platform.
Right.
And this is where South Korea's unique kind of climate and everything comes into play, right?
Absolutely. South Korea has this really interesting mix of factors that make it perfect for e-commerce to just explode. You've got these long working hours, really high smartphone penetration, and a lot of single-person households. It's all about convenience. People are looking for ways to make their lives easier.
And the numbers back that up.
Okay.
So Euromonitor is projecting that online sales
in South Korea will reach over $100 billion this year.
Wow.
And they're expecting growth of like 18%.
That's huge.
So by 2026, South Korea is projected to be the third largest e-commerce market globally.
Wow.
So Coupang was definitely in the right place at the right time.
Right.
But they didn't just ride that wave. Like they created a whole new wave.
Right. It wasn't just about meeting the demand that already existed. It was about exceeding it.
And that brings us to what I think is their secret weapon.
Okay.
Rocket delivery.
Okay.
So with rocket delivery, 99.3% of their orders are delivered within 24 hours.
Wow.
And they have this thing called dawn delivery,
Okay.
which promises delivery by 7:00 a.m. for orders placed before midnight.
That's incredible.
It's like Christmas morning, Kim even said.
Wow. So how did they do it?
Well, the really kind of crazy thing is that Coupang decided to build their entire logistics network from scratch.
Really? They didn't rely on any existing infrastructure? No. They have a fleet of over 5,000 delivery drivers, over 100 strategically placed fulfillment centers. Right. So instead of relying on like a third party, they created their own super efficient delivery machine.
That's a risky move, but it seems to have paid off.
Yeah.
So they control every single step of the process.
Right.
Which allows them to achieve a level of speed and reliability that would be almost impossible to match otherwise.
Now, about that copycat label. So Coupang has definitely borrowed some ideas from giants like Amazon and Alibaba, but they haven't simply replicated them.
Okay.
It's like they've taken those ideas and improved on them.
Right.
So, for example, their Rocket WOW membership program, very clearly inspired by Amazon Prime.
Right.
But with over 14 million subscribers, which is 2/3 of Korean households.
Wow.
They've clearly done something right.
Yeah, they've tapped into what South Korean consumers really want.
And it's not just about free shipping, right? It's about this whole package of benefits that cater to their needs. They've got Rocket Fresh for groceries, Coupang Play for streaming,
Okay.
Coupang Eats for food delivery,
Right.
Coupang Pay.
So they're trying to create an ecosystem like Amazon where you don't have to leave.
Yeah, you just live in the Coupang world.
Right. And that's a really powerful way to build customer loyalty.
To manage this massive delivery network, they created Coupang Flex.
Okay. What is that?
So Coupang Flex is like a combination of Uber and DHL.
Okay.
Individuals can kick up packages and deliver them whenever it fits their schedule.
That's fascinating. Like they're using technology to create a more flexible workforce.
Yeah.
And that model could really have implications for a lot of other industries as well.
So we've got this Harvard dropout who's turned into this visionary CEO.
Okay.
A country, South Korea, that's just perfectly positioned for e-commerce to explode and then this game-changing logistics system.
Yeah.
But the real question is this just hype? Or is Coupang built for long-term success?
Right. That's the big question.
Yeah. And to answer that, we need to go beyond just the surface and really understand what makes their operation tick.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
All right, let's do it.
Coupang's success, it's not built on hype. Their focus on logistics is what really sets them apart. They haven't just built a delivery system. It's like they've built this intricate network that's optimized for speed and efficiency.
Their fulfillment centers are they're crazy. Over 100 centers covering like 4.4 million square meters.
Wow.
It's like a mini city dedicated to just getting packages out the door.
Yeah, and it's not just about scale. They're using AI to manage this entire operation.
Okay.
So think about a system that knows where a product needs to be even before you order it.
Wow.
That level of predictive power is incredible.
So 70% of the South Korean population lives within 11 kilometers of a distribution center. Right.
And all this AI is kind of like orchestrating this movement of goods.
Yeah.
That's got to be expensive.
It's a massive upfront investment.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It becomes very cost-effective in the long run.
Okay.
Each additional delivery actually gets cheaper. So that adds to their profit margin.
So they're playing the long game.
Exactly. It's like building a highway. Really expensive at first, but ultimately allows for much smoother and faster travel.
Makes sense.
And that logistics network also becomes a huge barrier to entry for any competitors.
Right. They can't just copy that overnight.
Exactly. It takes years to build something like that.
So it's like a competitive moat.
Exactly.
And the results are pretty impressive. So in 2023, Coupang became profitable.
Wow.
$24.4 billion in revenue.
That's incredible growth.
And it's all built on those operating tenets we talked about earlier, you know, customer centricity, long-term vision, relentless innovation. Yet they're not just chasing short-term wins.
Right.
They're really focused on building something that will last.
But they're not content with just conquering South Korea.
Right.
Right. No. They've been expanding into Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore. Trying to bring this Coupang experience to new markets.
International expansion is tough.
Yeah.
What works in one market might not work in another.
Right.
Their experience in Japan, for instance, shows how important it is to be aware of those local nuances and preferences.
That's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly.
You got to be flexible.
You have to be willing to adjust while staying true to your core principles.
And let's not forget, I mean, the amount of money they put into building that logistics network.
Huge investment.
Not every company can do that, right?
Exactly. And not every company is willing to take that kind of risk.
But what's interesting is that once you have that infrastructure in place, the cost of each additional delivery actually drops significantly.
Exactly. So that initial investment eventually leads to much greater efficiency and profitability.
So it's like they're paving the way for a future where same-day delivery is just the norm.
Yeah. It's no longer a luxury, it's just expected.
But even with all their success, right? I mean, e-commerce, it's constantly changing.
Yeah. New technologies are emerging, new competitors are popping up.
Right. So how can they stay ahead?
Well, I think it's about constantly innovating and anticipating how consumer behavior is going to change.
Right.
They've already started experimenting with drone delivery.
Yeah.
They're investing heavily in AI and automation.
So who knows what's next?
Exactly. They seem to be in a constant state of evolution.
Yeah. It's like they hate standing still.
Yeah, they're constantly challenging assumptions, looking for better, faster, more efficient ways to do things.
So for our listeners, like, what's the takeaway from Coupang's journey?
I think there's a few key lessons here.
Okay.
First, customer experience is everything. You can't just offer products. You have to create an enjoyable, seamless shopping experience.
Okay.
Second, logistics is strategic.
Right.
It can make or break a company.
And third,
never stop innovating.
Yeah.
The moment you think you've figured it all out is the moment you start falling behind.
So Coupang's story shows that even in an established industry like e-commerce, disruption is always possible.
Exactly.
So now a question for our listeners. Coupang achieved this level of success in a pretty small market, South Korea.
Right.
What's stopping other companies from taking inspiration from them and achieving similar success, maybe even on a global scale? I mean, anything is possible when you combine a dedication to customer satisfaction with a constant drive to innovate.
Exactly. That's what makes Coupang so exciting.
Yeah, they're a company to watch. So that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Coupang, the Amazon of South Korea. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on the deep dive.
Coupang's story, it goes beyond business. It really shows how focusing on the customer and making things efficient can completely transform an entire industry.
Yeah. So can their model be replicated? Like, is this something that we could see happening in other parts of the world? Yeah. Or is it just so tied to South Korea that it just wouldn't work?
Right. That's the big question.
Yeah.
And while they have been extending to places like Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore, the results have been mixed. It's clear that just copying and pasting their model isn't going to work.
Right.
Every market has its own quirks, its own set of competitors. Consumers have different expectations.
So you can't just show up with a bunch of trucks and a fancy app and expect to dominate.
You really have to understand the local market.
Okay.
You have to adapt and really put in the work to build that trust with customers.
And the amount of money
that Coupang invested in their logistics network.
Huge.
I mean, not every company has that kind of capital.
Exactly. And not every company is willing to take that kind of risk.
But it is interesting that, once you have that infrastructure, the cost of each additional delivery goes down significantly.
Exactly. So it's a classic example of high upfront costs, big investment.
Right.
But that leads to greater efficiency and profitability over time.
So it's like they're creating this future where same-day delivery is just like normal. It's not this special thing anymore.
It's the expectation.
Yeah. But even with all their success, e-commerce, it's constantly evolving.
Absolutely. New technologies are coming out all the time. New competitors are popping up left and right.
So how do they stay ahead of the curve?
Well, I think it comes down to continuing to innovate.
Okay.
Really trying to anticipate what consumers will want next.
Right. We've already seen them starting to experiment with things like drone delivery.
Right.
They're putting a lot of resources into AI and automation. Who knows what they'll come up with next?
It's like they're allergic to complacency.
They don't want to stand still.
Yeah.
And that's really what makes their story so fascinating.
Okay.
They haven't let their success make them complacent.
Yeah.
They're constantly pushing the boundaries, questioning assumptions, just looking for new and better ways to do things.
So what can our listeners learn from Coupang's journey?
Well, I think there are a few key lessons here.
Okay.
First, the customer experience is paramount.
Okay.
It's not enough to just offer products. You have to create this seamless and enjoyable experience for the shopper.
Right.
Second, logistics are strategic. It's not just something that happens in the background.
Right.
It can really make or break a company.
And third,
never stop innovating. As soon as you think you figured it all out, that's when you start to fall behind.
So Coupang really shows that even in a well-established industry like e-commerce, disruption is always possible.
Absolutely.
So to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Coupang, the so-called Amazon of South Korea, we'll leave you with this final thought. If Coupang can achieve this level of success in a relatively small market like South Korea, what's stopping other companies from taking inspiration from them and achieving similar results, maybe even on a global scale? The future of e-commerce is full of possibilities, especially when you combine that laser focus on the customer with the constant drive to innovate. So keep exploring, Keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.